Welcome to the Undercovers cast. I'm Ben, along with Paul and Jenna. Tommy is out tonight, but he will be back next week. We've made it, about four practices through already, I believe, through training camp
Actually,
for the
five.
girls.
It's
Five?
five.
Okay. All
Five.
right. So, five. All right. So, we are five practices underway now. Jenna, I know you went Friday. Was that the only day you went? I know Tommy went
Yeah.
uh, twice. I went Wednesday, opening day. Paul, I know you haven't made it yet.
No,
Are
but
you
I'll be
planning
there
on?
Friday.
You'll be there Friday. I'll be there Friday as well. But just based on uh, what you've seen online, heard from reporters, and Jenna, from you, what are your just overall impressions of training camp so far?
There's a very real punt job uh competition. You see Khalil Shakir and Deontay Hardy and even Darrington Evans fielding punts. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Isabella has been added into the mix, so it's interesting that we're coming to this point again. Last off season, we had that same issue. We even had the punting competition. Um, Thankfully, we don't have that anymore. So we have Sam Martin, but it just once again we're talking about punt returners and kick returners. Hopefully, they have that set in stone by the second preseason game. I'd really like to see that. So that's what I've seen so far. Dalton Kincaid working off to the side. He's working on his hand-eye coordination with tennis balls. He's a very good catcher. I noticed that he was catching with one hand. He's doing like over the shoulder catches, turn around and like trying to catch from behind. He's really honing in on his craft. It's really nice to see a rookie being that disciplined early on.
Some early takeaways I've had so far early this season, this training camp is one is year two under Dorsey, what he's doing with the offense early on in the season. I mean, I really enjoy watching pre-snap motion. I mean, you've seen the Chiefs do it. I mean, you see the I think the Ravens do it a lot. So some of these other teams using pre-snap motion, and finally, under Ken Dorsey, that we can start seeing it again. We've seen it a little bit under Brian Dable in 2020 and 2021. And Josh Allen was really good when we used pre-snap motion. So I think having the ability to do pre-snap motion, again will help. Will benefit this team in the long run. And also the open cornerback two battle was an early takeaway that I've gotten so far. I mean, you've seen Elam in that role, you've seen Benford in that role, and you also seen Dane in that role. So it's been a very open and vocal competition at cornerback two.
Yeah, it almost seems like Dane Jackson is the leader in the clubhouse right now for that cornerback two position. But shifting middle linebacker is also another position that I think everyone is kind of focusing on entering camp. And right now, it's starting to look like Bernard and Dodson are the leaders there for that position. But not oddly enough, but surprisingly, Balin Spector has emerged as kind of like that the dark horse there. He's been getting some first team reps. I know Pats came on today, and I believe was it Dodson who started out today, if I'm
It
not
was Bernard.
mistaken. Oh, Bernard. Okay,
Bernard took all reps with the team with first
first
team.
team. Okay, so I knew it was either Bernard or Dodson who started today, but I mean we still got a long way to go in camp. But I think right now it's looking like Bernard's spot to lose at this point. Um, I know he's not the biggest, but he does have the athleticism. He's a pretty smart player. He can rush the quarterback. He's got pretty good coverage skills. Dorian Williams, I think he'll still play this year, but he's not gonna be day one starting middle linebacker. But I think that's the best for a rookie. You don't want to, give him too big of a spot. And that's, calling a defense, this defense, Sean McDermott's defense, which is going to be a lot more complex this year. You don't want to, put too much on the shoulders of a rookie, but now kind of flipping or turning the page, to offense. Dalton Kincaid, on the other hand, I don't think you're really asking too much for him when he'll be your second tight end. I mean, you still got Dawson Knox there, and all indications from camp, at least, are that 2 tight end set, 12 personnel is going to be. It might be their base offense, honestly, or at least we'll see a majority of the time. And I know he's just a rookie, but he's beaten Milano. He's beaten Poyer. Kincaid has looked really good so far. And honestly, I was there. I mean, he looked better than Knox on when I was there. And that's nothing against Knox. I mean, Knox is still a very solid player. Kincaid's his twitchiness, his ability to almost contort his body when he breaks, makes his breaks in his routes. It's special. It's almost like a wide receiver. And he is a former receiver, so I mean he does possess wide receiver skill set, and he'll basically be like a third receiver. And I mean Gabe Davis is also having a very strong training camp. From what I've heard, he apparently looks faster even, and I mean he's worked on his hands. So far, I think the offense, it looks like, I mean, offensive line, that's still the biggest question mark to me. And Spencer Brown apparently has been better, but once we get into these, preseason games, that's going to be something I think most of us watch for is, how the offensive line, looks against live bullets, against the real opponents. But other than that, I mean, we got the red and blue game this weekend. Paul, you'll be there, and I will be there as well. And that's another opportunity in a scrimmage setting to see how things are going.
Really
Stephon Diggs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Stephon Diggs, he had a masterclass of a press conference. I think he laid to bed a lot of narratives that, the media may have created or fans might have created. And he said he wants to be a Bill for life. So, I mean, it was about a 20-minute press conference, but I loved it. What are your guys' thoughts on the Diggs press conference?
I feel like whenever Diggs has a press conference, I stop what I'm doing and I start listening to it. Because we never hear him speak that often in press conferences. So, and hearing it for the first time since last season ended, it's just great to hear. He just, his voice is so calming, and he always says the right thing. Jokes around a little bit with the reporters, so I really missed hearing him talk, and it makes me feel good hearing that he 100% wants to retire a Buffalo Bill. And I know people might say, oh, he said that with Minnesota. This is different. He's got Josh Allen instead of Kirk Cousins. He's wide receiver 1, so there's not much he can complain about. He's just frustrated that the team seemingly took a step back, and for good reason. And he also acknowledged that we had a lot of bad things happen last season. So this is pressing the restart button. Everybody's healthy again. Knock on wood. Everybody should stay healthy again. I don't think we're going to have a tumultuous season again with injuries. That was a one-time rare occurrence. I think that we were cursed last year, to be honest. So hopefully that doesn't happen again, and we all leave the end of the season as champions.
Mm-hmm. There were so many takeaways from that Diggs press conference. I mean, he's there for 20 minutes, so that you can just take each 5-minute portion and just break it down into its own little thing. But what I got away from it is that he's grown, and he's grown since Minnesota. He knows that his role here is bigger here in Buffalo. He knows his role here is bigger. It is bigger here than what it was in Minnesota. He knows that he has to be more of a leader here than what he was in Minnesota. And you've seen him on the practice field at training camp talking to some of these the younger wide receivers at camp, and helping them through. He knows that, even though last year was I wouldn't say it's like was a fluke or anything. It was just odd. All these injuries, everyone goes down. And he noted that everyone's human, and it was just a human reaction what happened against Cincinnati, and it just blew all over the internet, and the internet and the media took it all out of proportion what happened on that night. It was just a human reaction, and everyone gets frustrated. And that's what I really, when he said that's when I was like, yeah, he's grown as a person. He knows what he has to do in Buffalo to get us a win, get us a championship. So I think, that's really what I took away from that Diggs press conference, is that he wants to win here in Buffalo. He wants to stay in Buffalo, and he wants to win with Josh Allen and the rest of his teammates.
Yeah, I think the thing about Stefon Diggs, and he's been one of my favorite players even before he was a Bill, and now that he's on the Bills, he's probably my second, if not my favorite player on the team. But I just love the realness from Stefon. Like, he shows just like genuine emotion, and people say he's a diva or whatever, but he just wears his heart on his sleeve. And like you mentioned, Paul, he talked to those reporters for 20 minutes, and I mean, you could just tell the way he was speaking. He was just giving like a straight up answer to everything, and he put all those narratives to rest. So that's, to me, why I love Stefon Diggs. And on top of that, in training camp, he's making those plays we love to see. And I think from what I'm hearing in camp, we might be in for a career year type season for Stefon Diggs, because he's been one of the best players in camp, and it seems like he almost has a newfound motivation. So, I mean, Paul, you mentioned wanting to bring a Super Bowl to Buffalo. Maybe this offseason he, and Josh has mentioned it too. How he's never been more focused on a season. You see Diggs, Josh, and Gabe after practice, just huddled up, just talking to each other, going over stuff for the passing game. I mean, you see how focused these guys are. It's almost like something we really haven't seen before with this team. And I know we've had a really good team these past several years, but we just didn't have enough to make it over the top. And it seems like they're hungry this season.
Yeah, it certainly does feel like that. It's just everything that he's saying is also transporting onto the field, right? To the practice field. Both Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs both look locked in, and they're both practicing like they're locked in. Everything that Allen throws, it's perfect to Diggs. Everything that Diggs, that the ball that's thrown to Diggs, he catches it. So they're really locked in. And I like seeing that your top two players on offense are locked in, and that means they'll be willing to do anything to get this team to where they're supposed to be, which is raising the Lombardi Trophy in Las Vegas in February. So I'm excited to see a new Diggs, a new Allen, and a new offense. I wish the season started tomorrow.
Yeah. And what's cool is that even though Diggs is considered the best player on the field during training camp right now, you still have all these other guys that are making plays and contributing, like James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, even Dawson Knox. Gabe Davis is having himself a freaking camp. We're hearing nothing but good things about him, and the fact that he elaborated on his injury last year and how it hampered him, even though he had about 800 receiving yards, Yeah, 7 touchdowns or something like that. He still had a pretty great season for number 2, but he was injured. So imagine he's not injured. He could actually go over 1,000 receiving yards. So it's great to know that we have all these weapons despite one guy being like extremely elite.
And Trent Sherfield is another name I think you should all we should all be watching out for week 1.
100%.
From what I've heard, and I mean I saw him a little bit Wednesday. He looked pretty good. I mean he really wasn't running with the ones, but granted that's day 1. But from everything I've heard from camp so far is that Trent Sherfield looks like he can be an underrated contributor in the offense. He's fast. He's got great hands. I think Sherfield might honestly be the number 3 wide receiver. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid is probably going to have way more targets and catches and whatnot. But out of the wide receiver group, it seems like Sherfield is starting to separate himself there.
Mm-hmm.
And Deontay Hardy. Can't forget about him.
Right.
Yeah, Deontay Hardy, it seems like, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do a little bit at that red and blue game. But when I was there, they had Hardy in the backfield. They've lined him up at different spots. He's almost like an Isaiah McKenzie, but his speed is, I mean, he's got way better speed than he's way faster than Isaiah McKenzie. And not only that, Isaiah McKenzie, to me, like he was quick and fast, but the little like twitchiness, like the lateral movement of Deontay Hardy is just something different that we haven't seen on this offense, because Isaiah McKenzie is good, but the left to right, whatever, like when he's trying to juke out a defender, like he really wasn't really like making defenders miss too many tackles. But what Deontay Hardy brings is quickness. He brings vertical speed. He can run a full route tree. He's got better hands than McKenzie, even though he muffed a punt. I don't know, was that yesterday, I believe?
Yeah.
Or today?
Mm-hmm.
It was
yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay, right. So he did muff a punt yesterday, but I think Shakir might end up being the punt returner. But I guess we'll see. That still is an open competition. But as far as a weapon in the offense, I agree. I think Deontay Hardy is going to add a different element to this offense, and that's some speed we really haven't had since Robert Foster was on the team.
On the wide receiver battle there, I think I agree with you, Ben. I think Trent Sherfield will emerge wide receiver 3. I mean, Shakir, had a couple of drops I think Thursday that, early in practice, and we had issues with drops last year. And I think that's going to be, for Ken Dorsey's offense, I think catching the football and securing the football is going to be way more important, and it's going to cost you more if you drop the football. And so if Shakir continues to drop the football, I don't think he's the guy that the Bills would want to run out with Diggs and Davis beside him. They're going to have a guy out there that Josh Allen knows and Ken Dorsey knows that can, when the ball is thrown to them, it's 70% of the time, or almost 90% of the time, that person's going to catch the football and go upfield and help this offense produce more points. And because the only way you win in a football game is you score more points than the other team. And if you drop the football in a key situation, you might not even get points that drive. So having a guy on the field like Sherfield who can catch the football and also give you yards after contact, that would be perfect for this offense. And I think that's why that's him having a good camp benefits him more and this offense even more.
Ken Dorsey made some interesting comments. He basically confirmed that James Cook is going to be the 3-down back, which to me is something I think most fans wanted. Is more of James Cook. You saw yesterday that little highlight the Bills posted from that deep pass of Allen to Cook, which was just like a perfect pass. Hopefully, we see more of that, but not only, in the passing game, but, the run game too. I think Cook just can bring, so much more to this offense from that running back position that we really didn't have from Devin Singletary. Nothing against Motor. He was always a steady, solid player to me. But Cook's receiving ability, it's special. And if we're able to get that out of him and get a couple big runs too, I think that'll just be gravy. But the more James Cook, I think the better. If you want my opinion, the biggest question mark really is can he take the touches, since he's never really had a huge workload going back to college. But you still have Damian Harris and Latavius Murray too, to take some of the workload off of him. But I'm excited for James Cook, and I'm glad that Dorsey finally sees what most fans saw last year out of him.
Yeah,
James Cook is going to make this offense cook. That's what I'm going to say. Is that the way Dorsey's scheming up some things in this offense, you're seeing James Cook being used in screens. I mean, that's something that the Bills were under Daboll wasn't really effective with as much. So Dorsey trying to get Cook into this offense more, I think will help this team even more, and him being able to catch the football in that sense gets Josh Allen another weapon to throw to, another weapon that the defense has to worry about. So all of these different weapons, including James Cook, I think this offense is uber talented, and I can't wait to see even more James Cook.
And with Ken Dorsey, he's been calling some pretty creative plays in training camp. At the goal line, doing a little Philly special, putting Gabe Davis in the backfield, giving a handoff to Dawson Knox. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that with Brian Daboll. So, with the giving the handoff to the freaking tight end, putting a wide receiver in the backfield. We really need that creativity. I'm excited that he's experimenting in training camp, and the fans get to see it. And it's working too. Allen is cooking. So Dorsey really took it to heart. The things that were said last offseason, or in this past offseason, that people were wondering, should Dorsey be fired or something like that. He knew that he had to step up his game, and I think that he's going to.
They even tried to do it last year. With signing Quentin Morris and signing some other, and signing Jamison Crowder and all that. They tried to do exactly what they wanted to do last year, but it just didn't work. Now that you add Hardy and you add Hardy and Sherfield, and now you draft Kincaid and another year with James Cook, it just gives Ken Dorsey what he wanted last year, this year, but even more talent. And he can take what he wanted to do last year to the next step, because he has a year under some of these players with Diggs and Davis and Josh Allen. So he knows. Now this year he can take what he wanted to do last year into this year and then go forward with that.
Yeah. And we tried to implement OJ. Oh my God, I can't speak.
OJ Howard. Yep.
Yeah. We tried to implement OJ Howard. It was like trying to say OJ Howard and stuff. OJ Howard. We tried to implement him, but he didn't work out. He absolutely flunked training camp. Even though
if he could have stayed healthy, this offense could have been a lot better last season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He
I
had
mean, not even really healthy, just if he was in better
consistent.
shape, I guess. Just
Yeah.
because, I mean, ever since he tore that Achilles, like he just never really was the same player since he was in Alabama. Like he was so dynamic in college. If we can get kind of the like what Kincaid was in college out of him, I think between like the 20s is going to be like probably the most difficult. I mean, I think it kind of proved last year was, and I think the red zone, we made adjustments by one, adding Kincaid, who's going to be a red zone matchup nightmare, and two, shoring up the offensive line and signing Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, who have like almost, I think they got like 29 touchdowns combined the last couple of seasons. So they're touchdown scoring machines. But when you're talking in between the 20s, you got James Cook, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis, and then you you have all of them on the field, and you go into empty, and Josh Allen can run out of the backfield. You could pass it to James Cook, who can do things with the ball. Dalton Kincaid is going to get a lot of yak, in my opinion, just because of how athletic he is. He gets the ball over the middle. You know, on a crossing route or whatever, he already beat a linebacker. He can, take it and run 20, 30 yards. I mean, we already saw it in camp. I think, the sky's the limit for this offense, really. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think this offense has all of the potential to finish the season as the number one scoring offense in football. Yards, I mean, they're nice, whatever. Passing, rushing, you got all that to take into consideration. So they may not be number one by yards. They may not be the number one passing because Mahomes still might get more passing yards than Josh, just because Josh likes to run. And I think we're gonna want to be a more balanced offense overall. But I still think we're going to score more points than any other team. And I think, the overall yards will be right up there again as one of the top offenses. But my bold prediction right now is that we'll have the top scoring offense this season.
I can get onto that. I mean, you look at what this offense has now, and then what they added, and then what they can do when they get inside the red zone, right? James Cook is almost your every down back. And then when you switch to the red zone, you got Damian Harris and you got Latavius Murray. But you also have to account for Diggs, Davis, Sherfield, and Kincaid while you're inside the red zone, or even when you're outside the red zone. So, I mean, having all these weapons, yes, some of them are not top brand name weapons that you see in Philadelphia or on some other teams that have those name brand people. But the Bills have a community of different people that they want to use, and if they use them right, this offense can just go beyond what other teams and other people are expecting.
Yeah. And we were the second best offense in points
Points scored.
yeah, it's points per game, right?
Oh, points per game, okay.
We were the second best scoring offense in points per game. So with all the weapons that we added this offseason, shoring up the offensive line, who's to say that we can't be number one? I'm really excited. I am confident that Dorsey will expand his play calling creativity. I don't think he's going to be the same. Think about how good the offense was last year with a first-year offensive coordinator. Now he's got another year under his belt. He's got a year under his belt. Better weapons, more creativity in the play calling. He's probably been working all off season trying to create a better playbook, create some nice plays. So I am very excited. I think that we're going to do something special this season.
Yeah, I think that's a big point coming into this offseason was how can Ken Dorsey improve from year 1 to year 2? Because if you look at the stats last year, compare them to the last year of Daboll, they're almost identical. And so, I mean, Ken Dorsey knows what he wanted to do, but now he has another year under his belt, another offseason where he can go back and look at the errors and look at how other teams are constructing their offenses. And he's able to go back to his old playbook and back to and look at what he can do this year with the weapons he has and create this offense for himself. He can create this offense in the mind of him, in his own mind, and what it can become. And he even said last year was they want emphasis on yards after catch. Well, he almost had that last year, but now he has it this year, and he can just take the next step. Take what he wanted to do last year and take it forward. And so that's where I think the Bills are right now with their offenses. What can they do from last year and take it to the next step?
How about on defense now? The defense has looked a lot more aggressive this season. They've been playing with multiple fronts. Greg Rousseau has been kicked into the inside. I really like to see that. He literally the first snap that he was on the inside versus the Titans, he got a sack. So put that man on the inside. Once Vaughn comes back, get Vaughn and Floyd on the edge, and that's going to be really dangerous. When I was at training camp, I saw Taron Johnson up high with the safeties, which was very interesting. So,
that is interesting.
McDermott cooking here? He's got the secondary mixed up. Taylor Rapp is being added in. I'm wondering if he's going to use 3 linebackers at times.
I wonder if Williams will be like that third linebacker. Mm-hmm. That's how we'll see Williams.
Like, imagine we have 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, Taron Johnson in there, and then 4 players in the secondary. You essentially have 4 linebackers out there.
Yeah. And then you got Taylor Rapp, too, who's basically like another linebacker. He's been playing even at nickel corner. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the defense plays. Jordan Poyer had an interception. I believe it was today, or maybe it was yesterday. Yesterday. Look, he showed blitz. He ended up dropping back, and he made a really good play on the ball. So I'm looking forward to see more of the defense. That's going to be what I'm really looking forward to the most out of that red and blue practice when I'm there on Friday night.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to look different this season, and that's an interesting thing to look out for. How they use Taylor Rapp, right? I mean, they had Taylor Rapp. They signed Taylor Rapp, but Taylor Rapp is a starting safety. Under most teams, he's going to start. So I think he's just going to be too good to keep off the field. So could you also see maybe 3 safeties at one time on the field? Just different things to work this defense out. Just like, because we have so many good players, it's how you're going to keep these players onto the field. So I think
where'd Ben go?
He had to go. He had to run.
Oh, okay.
But to continue my point on the defense is that the Bills have players on both sides of the ball where they're kind of like overflowed, right? They're kind of like this dominant team, but they have so many good players. So I think if the Bills have these players, they're going to use them, and they're going to use them on defense. Like, again, Taylor Rapp. I mean, he's in most defenses, he's going to be a start. He is a starting safety. So you use Rapp, you're going to have to keep him on the field. So maybe at times, do we see 3 safeties? I mean, to your point, maybe 2 linebackers or even 3 linebackers at one point. So Sean McDermott has we'll have a whole different outlook on this defense for sure.
Yeah. And then what about Spencer Brown? We've been hearing conflicting reports about the right side being blown up. Hey, let's go, Whittle. Yeah,
Thanks,
smash
Whittle.
that
Yes.
like button.
Yes, smash it.
We've been hearing conflicting reports about Spencer Brown, the right side of the line collapsing. And then in other reports, we're hearing that he's holding up pretty well. He's doing great in run blocking.
Right.
I think it was Mitch Morse and Spencer Brown doing great in run blocking. And then Osiris Torrance held up pretty well in pads today. We haven't really heard about McGovern very much, but I guess that's a good thing.
For sure.
Because, if you heard about him, it might be bad. I hope that we should probably ask some questions to these insiders and ask them, how's McGovern doing? I really haven't heard anything about him, so I'm curious. How's he doing?
One thing that I did see today was that I think Rousseau and somebody else beat Bates and Brown on the same side. So, I mean, that kind of rose a concern. I mean, Bates, he's kind of like that backup, or he could be that guy that at right guard. So I think that that's a concern when two players on defense can just run right through that right side. So I think they're really going to have to improve that right side, whether it's continue to work hard in training camp. Give these guys live reps in preseason games. How many reps do you give them? So I think that right side of the offense this season might be a little bit of an issue if they can't get some of these mistakes resolved now.
Yeah. And it's kind of like pick your poison. Do you want the defense to be good, or do you want the offense to be good? Whatever side of the coin that you're looking at. So Spencer Brown gets beat by Leonard Floyd. Not great for Spencer Brown, but that's great for Leonard Floyd. I'm hearing that Leonard Floyd has been very dangerous in training camp.
Yes.
He got off to a little bit of a slow start. He was obviously a free agent, so you're not acclimated with a team for some time. I don't think he was with in OTAs in May, so getting him acclimated into training camp was important, and he's found his footing so far in the last few days. I'm excited to see that front with Floyd, Rousseau. Even AJ Epinesa has been having a good camp. We love to hear that. Coming off a 6.5 sack season quietly while playing about 30% of the snaps. That's insane.
It is very insane.
I mean, Jalen Phillips had about 8 sacks, and he probably played about 30% or 30 percentage points more snaps than him.
Right. I think that D-line is going to be scary this season. I mean, you got Epinesa, you got Rousseau, you got Floyd, you also got Tim Settle, you got Jordan Phillips, but also Von Miller. I mean, does he start week 1? Does he not start week 1? If he doesn't start week 1, it's good to see that Leonard Floyd, he's starting to wrap up into form. And so if Von Miller has to miss a few weeks, then there you go. You have Leonard Floyd to help in to get the rush the passer even more. You also got Rousseau who trained this offseason with some really, really good defensive linemen to work on his technique. So I think we're going to see a different Rousseau this year. And AJ Epinesa. I mean, maybe Von missing a few weeks of the season, might be a good thing. So we can see a little bit more of AJ Epinesa, what he can do in a bigger role, and get more snaps, because like you said, he had 6.5 sacks last year with 30% of snaps. So you double that, or even give him a little bit more than that. You could say he's almost anywhere from an 8.5 sack guy to almost a 10 sack guy.
Mhm.
So I mean, we could possibly have 4 or 5 guys in double-digit sacks by the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's crazy because AJ Epinesa is probably he's their fourth best edge rusher, and he's getting that many sacks or projected to get that many sacks. Someone we really want to see more production out of is Ed Oliver.
Right.
How many sacks is he going to get this season? He's on a new contract. He's probably motivated to make that contract worthwhile. What could you see? What numbers do you see for Ed Oliver?
You know, going back to when we re-signed Ed Oliver, you know, you look back at his college stats. You know, he played 3 years at Houston. He really didn't. He didn't. We expected him to be like a 6, 7, 8 sack type of guy. But you look at this. You look at his college stats into the NFL. He really wasn't that big of a sack guy, you know, in college. So he's the guy that what I want to see. You know, if he can get 5 sacks, 6 sacks, that's great. That means that he's showing that he can get to the passer and rush. But what I want to see is him getting in between the tackles and try to get tackles for losses. You try to create force fumbles and be the distributor in the middle of the field that we sometimes can lack at times. You know, like, you know, when a guy like a Jordan Phillips goes out, well, what happens? You know, so
Yeah.
I think that Ed Oliver could have a good season this year.
I am so
while
sorry about
also
my
having
dogs.
an underrated season. That's all right.
Yeah, they're being really crazy right now. But what I'm doing right now is I'm looking up Christian Wilkins' stats because I'm pretty sure that Ed Oliver has more sacks than him, but I forget when he was drafted. He was drafted in 2019, the same year that Ed Oliver was drafted. Christian Wilkins has 11.5 career sacks in the regular season. I believe Ed Oliver has about 14.5.
Yeah.
Ed Oliver has 14.5 sacks. So he's got 3, I'm doing my math right, 3 sacks more than Christian Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Christian Wilkins, he's a big disruptor. But Ed Oliver, he's a bit of a disruptor as well. So the narrative behind Ed Oliver is that he's not as consistent. He shows flashes in games, but he doesn't hold it within a certain time period of the season. If he can be a little bit more consistent, then we might see the narrative change around him. I guess maybe Christian Wilkins gets a little bit more attention because he's very showboaty and he messes with the head of the offensive line. You know, I think that Ed Oliver can step it up a little bit. You know, in week 1, he was showing a lot of promise against the Rams. Mm-hmm. And then he suffered the ankle injury. That probably hampered him throughout the entire season. So we'll see if he's healthy again. I'm excited to see what he's got. I've heard that he's dominated through training camp. He had a really good day today in 11 on 11. So we're just going to have to see. That's how I feel about Ed Oliver. I understand the frustration.
I completely.
I've been frustrated too. But, you know, we signed him to a new contract. There's not much we can do, but, you know, cheer for him and hope that he can be a better player for us.
I agree. You know, if he can be a little bit more consistent, I think the narrative starts to change just a little bit. I mean, maybe the narrative doesn't change completely, but the narrative changes just a little bit. You know, if he can be more consistent, then the narrative starts to maybe he's a guy that we could rely on for like a big sack at this point in time of the game when the rest of the defense is kind of at a low point. So, I mean, if he could start being more consistent and start showing that this season, starting of his new contract, I think the narrative starts to change. He doesn't have to be your 8 sack guy. I think the expectations were for him to come in and be that guy. that
Mhm.
8 sack guy, but I don't think he's going to be that guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to give you 3.5, 4.5 sacks a game, a year.
Mhm.
Maybe he can get to 6.5 this season if he can have a more consistent season, and then that narrative starts to change on Ed Oliver, which I think we kind of hope it starts to change because of his new contract.
I'm hoping that he gets over 6 this year. That's going to be my benchmark. If he doesn't get over 6, if he doesn't at least put a stamp on our defensive tackle position, I'm going to be a little disappointed in that contract. And we're just going to, the Bills aren't going to make any moves. I have to frickin' sneeze. Tickling my nose. I don't know what the Bills would do if he has an underwhelming season. You add Daquan Jones, Poona Ford. You have Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips. You have the defensive tackle room to surround and help Ed Oliver. So he's just got to put in a little bit more work. 2020 he was forced to play more so nose tackle because of the absence of Star Lotulelei.
Right.
2021 Star Lotulelei was a little bit injured. He wasn't. I remember that video of Star prior to the 2021 season, and he was grinding in the off season, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Star Lotulelei is coming back," and he just absolutely sucked. So Ed Oliver had a lot on his plate in his absence, and when Star was injured, next year in 2022, that's the year that was last year. It was the first year that he was going back to his normal role. So year 2, back in that normal role, let's hope that he brings more production. So right now I am just looking at some advanced stats of Christian Wilkins and Ed Oliver. Of course, I can't look at PFF because my subscription isn't there. Let me log in.
But to continue your point, so we don't get dead air. So I mean, consistency. I think it's the biggest issue here. We all know that's his consistency. You look at the stats. I mean, because we're on this comparison of Christian Wilkins and Ed Oliver because they play the same position. They're expected to do the same thing. But you can also say Christian Wilkins plays in a different defense. Maybe he's the guy that's supposed to do that in that defense. The Bills kind of have. You could kind of say he's kind of like a role player in this defense.
Yeah.
Because they have Rousseau, they have Floyd, and they have Rousseau. He's not accounted to do as much as, a Christian Wilkins because they don't really have that in Miami. They have Jalen Phillips and some other dudes, but here we have a whole bunch of people that can do what we were hoping at Oliver to do. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So Ed Oliver's run defense grade it's not great. It's a 68.7. His pass rush grade was 62.9. So as much as I hate PFF, that's what we're going with right now. Ed Oliver does have a lot of QB hits. He had 11 last year. Christian Wilkins only had 3. So he's getting to the quarterback. He just needs to finish. Right. It's troubling. But I think that injury really hampered him. He's just got to be better. I think that he's going to show it this year with a revamped contract. He's got a lot to prove. even though he doesn't really say that he's got a lot to prove, he's still hearing those little whispers about him not deserving the contract. I'm hoping that he can bring his A game this year.
We talked a little bit about it earlier. You know how focused these players are and wanting to win the chip this year. And I think Ed Oliver could be that other guy that is motivated, to go out there and have a big season because he has a new contract. Maybe the contract was too much money, but he wanted the money. So we gave the money to him because he said he can improve. He said that he can go out and be the player that we are expecting him. So if he doesn't show out that he's to this player that we were expecting of him this year, and finish the season below expectations, the offseason narrative becomes, what do we do with that Oliver? What do we do with him? Do we trade him? Do we do this? Do we do that with him? So it's just right now, Ed Oliver just is in a weird spot because in this defense, he's not the main priority to get all those sacks and tackles and cause havoc, but we're expecting him to do that. So we hope that he can be more consistent in being that disruptor and go out and make the other defense fear of him.
Yeah. So back to training camp. What other things have you noticed? As we wrap up here, we have about less than 10 minutes. We can spend the rest of it talking about training camp. What's coming next week or this upcoming week. Next week, we have the Hall of Fame game on Thursday too. So football season is just around the corner. We also have
literally 4 days away from the Hall of Fame game.
Mm-hmm.
Because this time of the season, when I know when football actually starts, and because Thursday night football starts week 2, sometimes week 3, sometimes because of whatever the Amazon schedule is. When I know my day on Sunday ends, Monday, even though there's Monday night football, I'm still looking for Thursday night football because I know football is coming, and that's all I think about on Tuesday and Wednesday because it's Thursday already. So I think me sitting here on a Monday, knowing that football is Thursday, I'm super excited. I am in that mode. I know we're not seeing Aaron Rodgers versus Deshaun Watson. We're going to see Zach Wilson versus somebody else, but it's fun. It's going to be fun to watch some, competitive football on Thursday, even though it might not be the most fun. It might be a little boring. It might be a little dry, but it's football. I think we're going to see some good quality football on Thursday, but back to training camp, what I'm looking for is continue to be consistent, right? I want to see the defense make good plays, and I also want to see the offense make good plays. We kind of talked a little bit about this kind of in our little group chats, is that we want to see the defense make plays, but how are you supposed to feel about the offense? Oh, this is how we can feel. If there's a healthy dose amount of good plays for the offense and there's a healthy dose of good plays for the defense, that means the competition's there. That means both sides are being competitive and both sides are playing well and they're doing well. Yeah, there might be a slip up here and there on offense, a slip up here and there in defense, but seeing a good healthy of both is good for this team, good for the team, and they can grow together and they can continue to get stronger. Also, Damar Hamlin put the pads on today, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, that was really cool seeing him out there for the first time since January when he had his accident. I'm very proud of him. Go Damar. And I'm really excited to see the players this Friday at the Red and Blue game. We finally get a little bit of game action, although it's not going to be as competitive as an actual game because they don't want.
It's kind of say it's like a fourth preseason game because it's a scrimmage.
It's a scrimmage. It's a friendly. So I'm really excited. Sorry, I don't know very much about soccer. Um, I'm really excited to see Deontay Hardy in action. I remember at OTAs, I think it was, when all the players were getting together. There was a play, I think this was in Highmark Stadium. There was a play by Deontay Hardy, and he was burning rubber. He was fast as hell. I couldn't believe it. So I'm really excited to see him on Friday. I won't be there, but I'm excited possibly to see some videos. I know we do see some videos of the red and blue game at times. So Deontay Hardy, Dalton Kincaid, of course. He's a big favorite of mine right now.
Big
Who
favorite
else?
of everyone right now.
Yeah. Kyer Elam. I'm excited to see how he progresses. There's so many players that I'm looking for. Pretty
Mhm.
much all of them, AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Leonard Floyd, Puna Ford. Puna Ford had a big man interception
He did.
yesterday.
Good for him.
Yeah. So that's really cool to see, even though Matt Barkley threw it right at his freaking face. Good job, Matt, for giving us that highlight. So there's really not much else that we can
One
talk
quick
about.
thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because of the red and blue game, I guess I'm going to kind of say what I'm going to be looking out for the red and blue game. Kind of like you said, I think definitely now, because we're talking about this guy more, is Deontay Hardy. I think I'm definitely going to look for Deontay Hardy and where he's lining up, and kind of like, is he in the slot? Where is he? Like how are we using this guy? Because we're kind of describing him as a Isaiah McKenzie like. What kind of routes is he running? Is he just running the straight vertical route, or is he doing a curl route? Is he doing outs? Is he doing ins? So something like that. Where are we running? How are we kind of scripting plays? What are we doing more? Are we going to continue? Am I going to continue to see pre-snap motion? Which I hope I see a lot of pre-snap motion. That will make me super happy if I continue to see pre-snap motion, because I love pre-snap motion. I'm going to keep saying it until the football season starts. I love pre-snap motion. Also, how are we putting Dawson Knox in the backfield? Are we kind of being creative in our offensive scheme this year? And on the defensive side of the ball, it's probably going to be Kyer Elam. Is he CB2, or is he coming with the twos? So it's like, where is he? Is he lining up with the ones? Is he going to be that other guy with Trey White, or is he going to be the guy that's going to be behind and be CB3? I hope he's not CB3 at the start of the season. But what is he? Where is he, and how is he performing? I also kind of want to see some of these other receivers and how they're performing, like Shorter, Sherfield. I keep forgetting some of the other ones we have, but some of these other receivers that we have.
Coulter,
Mhm.
Desmond Patman. I think we released some. We released Jalen Wayne, unfortunately.
I was hoping to see him Friday, but that's okay.
Yeah, we released Cameron Dantzler too, the cornerback. Yeah, we released quite a few guys this past weekend, unfortunately, just because of some injury concerns. But yeah, all those competitions are going to be very notable and pronounced in this game on Friday. We'll see actual competitive action right before our eyes. And then one thing that I'm really hoping that we have or that we see on Friday. Remember last year when Josh Allen came out in a red helmet, and unfortunately, the Bills announced that they would not be wearing throwbacks or red helmets in 2022 because of the uniform rule that says you have to wear the red helmet or the alternate helmet, throwback helmet with your color rush, or you have to make an entirely new uniform. The Bills didn't have time for that in 2022. Yeah. So I was hoping that maybe we'd have a little bit of time for that in 2023. We haven't got any formal announcements yet, but I'm just thinking, like, maybe, just maybe, the Bills will come out in a red helmet and not, what's the word? Troll their fan base again. What better way to announce red helmets than to walk out in an actual red helmet that looks like this? Not with just the blue stripe down the middle. I want the white stripes on the side. Just give us what we want. There are some sources floating around. Patriots contributor, Babs. Paul's not a big fan of him. I'm not a big fan
right now.
I'm not a big fan of him either, but he's predicted the uniform combinations of the Patriots throwback games. He predicted that it would be versus the Chargers and the Dolphins that they'd be wearing throwbacks, and he was correct. So. In that same thread, he predicted that the Patriots would wear their 90s throwbacks versus the Bills in week 7. And
why is everyone wearing their throwbacks against us? I don't
know.
Every time I see a throwback being released, it's against us. I'm like, what are you trying to do to us? Like, yeah, we don't have one yet, but like, you don't have to like showboat.
Yeah. And also, it was in that in a separate thread, but it was connected. It was revealed that the Bills would wear their red throwbacks, their red helmet throwbacks, versus the Patriots in week 7. So it's just like, I'm just kind of thinking, okay, is this real? Like, are we actually going to start announcing it? This was back in June, and he predicted this back in June before the Patriots throwback games were announced, and that was announced in mid-July. So, it makes you think, does he know something? And then I've also been thinking about the uniforms, them scrapping their AFL throwbacks in 2022, taking them off the website, the Bill Shop website, and then Labatt promotes a new hard tee, throwback tee, and it's to commemorate 50th anniversary of the Charging Blue Buffalo logo. But they use a red helmet instead to promote it. Why do I find that weird? Because the first rendition of the blue Charging Buffalo logo was on a white helmet. Why not use that? Why not use an old-fashioned white helmet to promote your new hard tee? Why are you using a red helmet? Maybe they want to attract customers because a lot of Bills fans like the red helmets. Right. Or maybe they're trying to say something that the Bills are probably going to release something and they wanted to, do a little side-by-side sale and throwback game special. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about the red helmets and their throwbacks. Please, Buffalo Bills, bring them back. I want to see Josh Allen in a red helmet and Diggs in a red helmet and the Buffalo Blue throwback jersey. Please. And thank you. Yeah.
Is that your cry for help?
That is my cry for help. Just like last week was my cry for help, holding up this red helmet. Isn't this so nice? Signed by Steve Tasker. It's a beautiful helmet. And I also got my my black Diggs helmet, my white Thurman Thomas signed helmet. So yeah, I got the goods. But that's pretty much it that we have for today. Anything that you want to add?
No, I think we covered almost everything within this hour. I think tonight's content was awesome. Stay tuned because next week we are talking fantasy football. The week after that, we're also maybe doing some even more fantasy football. So fantasy football, if you're interested in fantasy football at all, tune in for the next 2 weeks because the next 2 weeks will be packed with fantasy football.
Mm-hmm. So, that's all we have for today. So coming next week, tune in for our fantasy football overview. Have a great night and go Bills.
Go Bills.